Today, the internet did not awaken softly. Whispers woke it up, followed by shock. Then a headline that was so explosive that no one could stop it from spreading. Breaking news, notifications, active group chats, and followers constantly scrolling their feeds in an attempt to distinguish reality from pandemonium. Confirmed, Tamar Braxton is divorced. Well, that's what the reports assert. And this wasn't merely a quiet split, according to the same rumors that were going around. This was supposedly the result of something far more sinister, messy, and intimate. According to web sources, the rumors around Mendeecees Harris are what caused everything to fall apart. The rumors of a night that went beyond what anyone could have predicted, the purported affair, and the covert encounters. Fans claim that Tamar's name became popular, not because of television or music, but rather because of inquiries. They never had a celebrity associated to them. Then the word that totally altered the tone appeared. HIV has been mentioned enough times on blogs and rumor sites to be sent, but no official declaration has confirmed it. Her fan following is shaken by shock. Online users started bringing her past, including her marital history, back into the public eye. Vince Herbert, her ex-husband, unexpectedly reappeared in the conversation. Fans went back to previous interviews, arguments, and instances in which Tamar had implied that she had already experienced emotional torment. According to these sources, they are now questioning whether the most recent scandal indicates that she never really got away from it. They are sharing screenshots. The sources cited are anonymous. Some say the legal documents have already been completed. Others think that the narrative is being overly dramatic. However, one thing is certain. Anxiety is running high. Fans are startled. Opponents are split. Additionally, social media no longer agrees on what is true. Was this the tipping moment? Really? Did rumors of health disclosures and possible treachery ruin her personal tranquility? Or is this just another instance of online conjecture getting out of hand? Regardless of the reality, the family is once more under public scrutiny, and the harm, at least online, feels impossible to change. One question looms large in the air as the rumors get louder. Why does this feel so genuine this time if it's all just talk? It took time for the situation to blow up. It had been building covertly for weeks, according to stories that were making the rounds. Perhaps even months under the surface of social media grins and carefully staged public appearances. Those close to tension was allegedly already there in Tamar's personal life long before fans were aware of any issues. It is said that conversations got shorter. There is allegedly less trust. Additionally, when rumors about Mendeecees started circulating online, they didn't start in a peaceful setting. They ended themselves in a marriage that had emotional baggage from the past. Blogs first implying that the purported relationship between Tamar and Mendeecees was more than a spur-of-the-moment rumor. They asserted that the two had met through mutual friends, familiar workplaces, and overlapping groups. In an effort to find moments that seemed different in retrospect, fans began playing back previous videos. A chuckle lasted too long. A lingering gaze. Nothing tangible enough to sustain conjecture just now. The internet did what it always does when the notion of an affair gained traction. Every detail was enhanced. According to reports, her husband's response to the rumors was quick and strong. According to sources, accusations erupted following late-night disputes that emotionally exhausted both parties. It was said that once trust was questioned, it was impossible to regain. Tamar initially denied everything, according to several insiders, claiming that internet rumors had gone too far. Others asserted that silence ensued, exacerbating the situation. Fans sensed the tension through abrupt unfollows, deleted posts, and a discernible change in tone, even though they weren't present to hear the remarks. The story's most detrimental layer then emerged. HIV, repeated assertions without any official confirmation or medical declaration across anonymous tips, comment sections that won't stop, and gossip websites. These stories claim that the purported affair was dangerous in addition to being emotional, and that terror altered everything. According to insiders, concerns about one's future, family, health, and reputation also caused panic. Whether the rumor was accurate or not, it was enough to stun everyone involved. People started claiming that the marriage could not withstand the combination of dread and betrayal. Even those who rejected the HIV assertions acknowledged that the harm had already been done. The trust had crumbled. There was reportedly a total breakdown of communication. It was said that family members were drawn into the fight. Every side has a different account of what happened. With each day that went by, feelings ran hot and the likelihood of reconciliation decreased. Fans saw Tamar pulling back from the limelight. Online, she apparently changed her tone from assertive to cautious. Posts with cryptic content came and went. Playful captions were replaced with quotes about survival and fortitude. This was seen by many as proof that something significant was going on behind closed doors. Some claimed it was just another instance of exaggeration on the internet. However, the cacophony persisted, and silence made it even louder. The same reports state that legal talks started in secret. Controlled discussions centered on safeguarding property, privacy, and dignity rather than dramatic courtroom scenes. According to insiders, the term divorced came up earlier than anticipated. There was no simple route back once that boundary was crossed. The atmosphere, according to those close to the couple, was somber and certain, as though both parties already knew how it would end, even though the general public did not. Fans claimed that the shadow of prior trauma made the situation even more agonizing. Tamar had previously talked candidly about relationships that left scars, trust, concerns, and emotional traumas. Opponents said she should have serenity instead of another tempest. Some were less understanding, arguing that trends were recurring. The internet divided into factions, each believing they had a deeper understanding of the truth than the different. Mendeecees, meanwhile, continued to be the subject of conjecture. His every action was scrutinized. Some became skeptical and respectful of silence. Was there something he was unable to deny, or was he trying to avoid adding gasoline to the fire? There were more inquiries but no definitive answers. Every rumor seemed to produce 3 more, engulfing everyone in doubt. Friends were allegedly compelled to take sides. Tamar was apparently advised by some to leave the mayhem and defend herself. Some advised addressing the rumors directly. Online rumors claimed that her husband opted for distance instead, because he thought it was the only way to keep things from getting worse. However, distance didn't bring coherence. It brought with it coldness, which solidified into choices. Many fans believed the emotional conclusion had already been reached by the time they started to encounter the word confirmed associated with divorce. Back then, it didn't really matter if there was paperwork. The conviction that the marriage was at its breaking point. Once trust is lost, particularly under public examination, is rarely fixed. The narrative started to focus more on what people thought had happened than what had actually occurred. One thing became evident to everyone observing from the outside as the emotions continued to escalate. Whatever the truth, the confluence of purported betrayal, health, anxieties, and constant public pressure produced a storm powerful enough to shatter even the most private lives. And love had no chance during that storm. After that initial surge, the noise on the internet did not abate. It changed tone instead. Whispers evolved into full-fledged arguments between Many admirers brought up Tamar's prior marriage to Vince Herbert, claiming that this circumstance felt uncannily identical. As they dissected every old interview and connection associated with her life, people recalled her description of feeling emotionally besieged, voiceless, and unsupported. These recollections reappeared, not just out of compassion, but also as support for the idea that history was repeating itself. According to reports making the rounds online, her spouse found it extremely difficult to deal with the accusation's public aspect. The embarrassment of witnessing his marriage discussed in comment sections was reported to be unbearable, even if nothing had been established. Friends reportedly saw a shift in his attitude from defensive to aloof. According to reports, discussions that had previously focused on repairing the harm turned to preserving peace. It frequently takes the place of conflict when trust is weak, and it can be louder than any argument. Additionally, fans started observing how others close to Tamar reacted. Family members were reportedly worried about their emotional health in addition to their reputation. The notion that HIV rumors were connected to her name infuriated fans who thought boundaries had been violated. Others contended that rumors have a purpose and that the myth was sustained solely by believing. In the midst of it all, logic tried to survive while emotions ran high. The drama's focal point remained the purported relationship with Mendeecees. Every post, every appearance, and every absence was viewed as proof. A few fans, some argued that time proved everything, while others maintained that coincidence was being confused with reality. The absence of a categorical denial on either side exacerbated the situation. Imagination was unbridled by silence. Furthermore, the internet rarely removes gaps once it has been filled in, destroys them. The marriage reportedly started to feel more like a negotiation than a relationship. Once shattered, trust was now shattered. Discussions supposedly became pragmatic, concentrating on distance, boundaries, and space. As the days went by, the notion of reconciliation waned. It was said that those in close proximity to the event described a state of emotional fatigue that left little hope. Under suspicion, love frequently suffers. Subtle shifts that strengthened the story were observed by fans. Furthermore, it was said that Tamar's public persona felt more circumspect. It seemed strained to laugh. Confidence appeared worn. Quotes about self-respect and survival started to appear frequently, which many interpreted as coded communication. Those messages, whether deliberate or not, were too similar to the rumors to be disregarded. Supporters felt defensive. Opponents felt validated. The gap grew wider. Despite not being verified, the HIV assertions held the most weight. Rumors about health often have a greater impact since they are fundamentally frightening. Online conversations changed from curiosity to accusations, from gossip to judgment. Some people said it was cruel, conjecturing. Others viewed it as a result. In any case, the rumor by itself is said to have altered the tone of private discussions. Once fear enters a relationship, it doesn't need evidence to gain control. Seldom does it depart softly. Online reports said that the marriage had deteriorated to the point where no amount of explanation could make it better. Public trust has been called into doubt, and that stain is hard to get rid of. According to reports, family participation expanded to handle the repercussions rather than to save the relationship. Instead of healing, people started to concentrate on damage control. Endings become unavoidable when it occurs. Regardless of the reality, many admirers thought that Tamar was deserving of sympathy. They brought up years of emotional vulnerability and public scrutiny. Some were less understanding, arguing that public personalities invite criticism. The argument became increasingly heated, intense, and intimate. Every day, criticism and empathy collided. Both sides were certain that they were upholding justice. The lack of precise information did not deter conjecture. Rather, it made it worse. Separation rumors were taken as verification. The term divorced was more often associated with assurance than with caution. Even those who doubted the veracity acknowledged that the marriage seemed to be finished in spirit. In the public eye, perception became reality. After that boundary is crossed, it becomes almost impossible to undo. Online rumors said that discussions on legal separation were no longer speculative. Quiet admissions that the relationship was irreparably damaged, rather than outbursts. According to reports, it seemed impossible to re-establish confidence while under continual scrutiny. Once lost, seclusion could not be recovered, and healing seemed unattainable without it. Fans persisted in watching old videos, viewing previous conflicts as cautions and previous smiles as masks. The story rebuilt itself in real time, creating a coherent narrative even in the absence of supporting evidence. Evidence was no longer as strong as belief. Reason was defeated by emotion. As that conviction grew stronger, the marriage itself became less significant and was replaced with a narrative that transcended the individuals involved. The emphasis had changed by the time the conversation reached a somber acceptance. It was now more about what this scenario symbolized than what really occurred: betrayal, anxiety, tiredness, and the crushing weight of public judgment. The narrative had taken on a life of its own, whether it was fair or not. Additionally, the marriage was already viewed as a casualty in that existence. A fresh layer of stress started to shape the story in unexpected ways as it continued to develop online. What had previously seemed like disorganized rumors began to take on a pattern that enthusiasts thought clarified everything. People said that it was now impossible to conceal the emotional gap in the marriage. Online sources indicated that trust was no longer only damaged. Fundamentally, it was questioned. It is said that every private discussion was compared to what strangers were saying in public. The way both parties communicated was gradually altered by such pressure. When Tamar did talk, fans began to notice how deliberately she chose her words. Nothing warm, nothing clear, nothing straightforward. Online rumors claimed that her husband saw that constraint as a sign of disengagement. There was caution now, instead of the impassioned back and forth. People said that instead of being loud, discussions were now heavy and silent, with pauses rather than accusations. And those breaks carried a greater impact than any shouting could. Mendeecees' name would not go away from the discussion. The alleged affair became the prism through which everything else was seen, even in the absence of corroboration. Regardless of whether the relationship was genuine or not, fans contended that the suspicion that it might be was sufficient to permanently alter the marriage. Suspicion has the power to rewrite reality, and once it enters a relationship, all prior memories are altered. According to the report, the health rumors increased people's anxieties due to uncertainty rather than evidence. Unanswered questions breed fear. Gossip pages claim that this uncertainty forced both parties to go into survival mode. Discussions were more about protection than love. It was said that emotional walls rose. There was no longer any vulnerability, and intimacy closely trails behind. There were reports of disturbed family dynamics. It was reported that loved ones were irritated by both the rumors and the inability to stop them. Everybody gave advice. Everyone had their thoughts, but the internet could not be silenced. Tamar was apparently pressured by some to make a public apology. Others cautioned that reacting would simply strengthen the rumors. She felt caught between quiet and defense as a result of that personal struggle, which mirrored the greater one taking place online. Her previous remarks regarding partnerships were also reviewed by fans, replaying interviews in which she discussed self-worth and emotional tiredness. Those statements now sounded prophetic to many. They contended that the issue was ultimately the result of years of emotional pressure rather than a single rumor. Reappearing, people were projecting meaning where none existed. Critics retorted. However, projection is effective, particularly when it aligns with a story that people already hold dear. Online conversations claim that the couple reached a point when avoiding conflict felt safer than confronting one another. The frequency of time apart increased. It is said that instead of being emotive, communication became logistical. Supporters said that this change was the real end. When love turns into management, something crucial has already been lost, even if no declaration had been made. Meanwhile, the internet was merciless. Discussions became personal. The accusations became harsh. The Tamar supporters vehemently supported her, characterizing the rumors as intrusive and careless. Some accused her of guilt by remaining silent. The split grew more pronounced every day, even with well-planned public appearances. The emotional toll of the ongoing conflict between empathy and judgment was evident. According to reports, private decisions started to be influenced by the pressure of public scrutiny. Mental health protection became a top issue. The value of peace surpassed that of proving innocence. The prospect of continuing to be married while under continual suspicion seemed untenable. According to people close to the issue, fans saw symbolic moments that fueled more conjecture. Not because love had vanished entirely, but rather because the atmosphere had turned poisonous. Minor adjustments to routines, Tamar's absence from familiar places, and a change in the way she talked about her future, emphasizing strength and independence. All of it felt consistent with the rumors, but none of it was proof. For many observers from the outside, perceptions became beliefs, and beliefs became certainty. The word divorce started to spread with greater assurance. Not declared, but presumed. Acceptable, but unproven. Emotional divorce, according to some, frequently occurs long before formal legal action is initiated. Many believe the end had already come by using that reasoning. The emotional reality that followers thought they were seeing overshadowed the existence of documentation. Online rumors claimed that legal discussions were peaceful but decisive. Well, not violent altercations, but meticulous preparation and conversations about limits, privacy, and moving on without causing more harm. Fans were more afraid of that serenity than they were of rage. Anger suggests passion. Calm suggests resolution. Another emotional depth was introduced by Vince Herbert's participation in internet debates. Fans made comparisons between the past and present, wondering if Tamar was being drawn into an uncontrollable narrative once more. Supporters said that rather than conjecture, she should be understood. Opponents said it was hard to ignore patterns. People started using the past as a mirror to support their findings about the present. It became evident as the story developed that it was about more than just one purported affair or one health rumor. It was about the cost of living in public while suffering in private, love under observation, and trust under duress. Many observers believed that the marriage had been put in a precarious situation. Stay mute and face criticism, or talk and run the danger of more harm. Fans had stopped inquiring about the marriage's difficulties by this point. They wanted to know how it could endure. It felt like every rumor was another crack. Without clarification, it felt like confirmation every day. Even the skeptics acknowledged that something had changed, not only in the relationship, but also in Tamar's demeanor. Ultimately, it wasn't the prospect of divorce that worried people the most, but rather how it appeared to happen silently. Distance, stillness, acceptance that spread subtly across the internet. No spectacular proclamation, no public collapse. The marriage vanished from view as that acceptance took hold, to be replaced by a story that seemed complete despite the lack of a documented conclusion. Even though nothing had been made public, many fans believed that the decision had already been emotionally decided by the time the discussion got to this point. Hush has a way of providing answers to issues that people are reluctant to ask, and the hush surrounding the situation grew heavier. Online rumors suggest that the couple now focused on accepting what could not be healed rather than fixing what was broken. Seldom does hope make a sound as it gently leaves a relationship. It was said that those involved saw a change in priorities. Appearances were less important than peace. Explanations were not as important as stability. It apparently got tiresome to continuously defend a relationship against rumors. Some admirers think Tamar got to the point where she didn't want to argue with the internet or give anyone her approval. Survival turned within rather than outward. The long-lasting shadow of HIV speculation persisted, even in the absence of proof, because fear is difficult to overcome. Health-related rumors often persist. The existence of that fear altered the fundamental functioning of the marriage. According to rumors, where ambiguity existed, trust could not exist. Love found it difficult to overcome the gap created by the mere hint of danger. Many supporters contended that this was the last phase of something that had been gradually deteriorating rather than a catastrophic collapse. Relationships, years of public scrutiny, and emotional vulnerability on screen examined by strangers. It all created pressure that is unheard of in most private lives. Supporters claimed that this was just the point at which everything gave way. Others argued that responsibility was more important than compassion. They maintained that when a public figure's life attracts attention, they have to deal with the fallout. Deeper criticism and harsher commentary were sparked by this belief. There was no middle ground, as criticism and empathy kept clashing. The discussion shifted from discussing the truth to taking sides. Online reports described the decision to proceed independently as calm but heavy, motivated by acceptance rather than rage. Arguments often end when both parties realize they have nothing more to say. This serenity was seen by fans as the best indication that the relationship had come to an end. Mendeecees' purported involvement was still a contentious issue. His silence was seen by some as respectful. Others thought it demonstrated avoidance. Interpretation took the place of fact without verification. Every action, or inaction, was viewed with suspicion. Even though the story was never formally told, the internet filled in the gaps once more, creating a narrative that felt whole. Tamar's public persona remained consistent with a woman who prioritized strength over justification. Fans claim that she became more focused on protecting herself. She seemed more concerned with preserving her emotional space than correcting rumors. For many, this was progress. Some perceived it as surrender. Once more, perception gave way to reality. There were rumors of conflicting family reactions. Some were allegedly in favor of leaving the mayhem behind. Others wanted clarity to put an end to conjecture. However, everyone is rarely satisfied by clarity, particularly when the internet has already decided what it believes. Distance turned out to be everyone's safest choice. In many people's minds, the once whispered word divorced has become both a shocking revelation and an accepted conclusion. Supporters contend that emotional resolutions frequently precede formal ones. The marriage had already ended by that standard. The connection felt lost, paperwork or not. Supporters found the situation particularly upsetting because they felt that Tamar was never really immune to criticism from the public. Before she could speak for herself, it seemed as though others had written every chapter of her private life. This instant felt unchanged. Control receded as the story progressed more quickly than the facts. However, some voices advocated moderation. They reminded others that silence does not imply confirmation and that rumors are not facts. However, louder opinions frequently overpowered those voices. Anger spreads more quickly than prudence. Truth travels more slowly than drama. Furthermore, a story seldom gently releases attention once it has captured it. Online conversations claimed that the marriage had reached a point where continuing to be together meant ongoing harm. Choosing peace over proof became the guiding principle, even though separation offered at least the prospect of healing. Not because everything was true, but rather because it was intolerable to live under constant suspicion. Fans persisted in discussing timelines, motivations, and accountability. Some claimed that treachery was unavoidable. Others claimed that what was left was destroyed by the internet. They both thought they were upholding justice. The relationship actually turned into collateral damage in a bigger show. The indignation gradually gave way to acceptance as time went on. People turned their attention to fresh debates, scandals, and headlines. However, the effect persisted for those concerned. Public pressure shapes endings, leaving scars that are difficult to erase. The effects persist even after the noise subsides. Whether the outcome might have been different in a quieter world is what's still up for debate, not whether the rumors were accurate. That question might never be answered in a world without ongoing surveillance, without conjecture masquerading as certainty, and without fear heightened by strangers. For now, the narrative exists in bits and pieces, rumors, presumptions, and beliefs. A marriage is remembered more for its online demise than for its private life. Additionally, as the internet focuses on other things, one thing feels evident to those who are closely observing. This was more than a rumor or an alleged affair. It was about the price of living in public while breaking in private, and how sometimes the only way to survive is to walk away. A peculiar calm ensued as the noise gradually subsided, the kind that follows emotional exhaustion instead of resolution. Online rumors claimed that both sides seemed to distance themselves from the storm in order to preserve what was left of their inner selves rather than to reflect in public harmony. This subdued retreat was seen by fans as the last emotional change. Many believe there is nothing left to defend when people cease correcting rumors. The situation started to be reframed online as an ending that had been developing for a while rather than as a scandal. People said that health rumors and the alleged affair were the trigger rather than the cause. They contended that years of cumulative stress are more likely to cause a relationship to fail than a single incident. The reasons this chapter ended the way it did were now being explained by adding together all of the arguments, miscommunications, and personal traumas. Advocates persisted in highlighting the human cost. They discussed how living in a world of constant conjecture undermines trust, both within oneself and between partners. When people constantly doubt your veracity, strangers, it becomes more difficult to maintain clarity. Fans claimed that this emotional deterioration was more important than any one rumor. Decisions, responses, and ultimately the desire to continue fighting were all altered. Others continued to concentrate on responsibility. They argued that public figures should be transparent about how their actions impact others and that silence encourages presumption. Even as the fury subsided, this conviction kept judgment alive. Quietly, Discussions persisted, moving from shock to interpretation. Was it a sign of strength or avoidance to walk away? People were equally passionate about both sides. The public debate over Mendeecees' alleged involvement remained unresolved. Some said everything would become clear with time. Others thought that too many presumptions had already buried the truth. Narratives hardened without statements. Curiosity was replaced by belief. Furthermore, conviction seldom lets go once it has taken hold.